Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Um, First, I want to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the opportunity of the great favors on us. And we are here today. It's materialized and we are meeting. Once again, to appreciate and to from the bottom of our heart, to thank the administration of this Dedan Kimathi University of Technology, TECUT, Professor Mushiri and his team, by the way they received us, and he personally accepted us and received us, and very well, cordially, and very warmly. We don't take it for granted. We appreciate that, and it's left a very indelible mark in our memories for we've not gone to any other university that we've received such invitation, such warm welcome, and also experienced the way the students, the Muslim students specifically, the space to meet, congregate, and formulate programs apart from the academic programs that they're doing, to be able to interact and to share ideas. So I thank you very much for this opportunity. And on my left here is a senior resident Kadhi, Abdulhalm Karanja Waweru. He is the presiding Kadhi in the Kadhi's law court here at Nyeri Law Courts. He's been here in the station for quite some time, about 1 or 2 years. But he's a son of this area, so you are in good hands, I suppose. And Honorable Muhammad Abdullah Kutas is a principal Kadhi, senior principal Kadhi, currently stationed at Machakos, but he's been previously here for about 8 years, stationed in Nyeri. So he got a wealth of experience and is one of our most able Kadhis. And also, this program is sponsored by Alhaajar TV, who's organized the entire entourage camp to bring us here, together with the renowned scholar, Sheikh Abu Hamza, who's run several foundations and projects in Kenya and participated and renowned internationally here in Africa, as well as worldwide, with its efforts of interactions, building networks, helping students, nurturing talents and volunteerism, and his passion in Tarbiyah is well known throughout Kenya and the region. So we want to appreciate the team that brought us here, Haajar TV. It's right now transmitted live, I think, and so that the other students who could not make it here in Kenya and throughout the region can be able also to participate in the interactions here. There's somebody supposed also to talk virtually. I don't know whether he's still going to come all the way from the UK. He'll communicate and give a talk virtually. I think he's the one who's going to talk about the topic it was alluded here about, the balance between faith and the career. Mine, I was tasked to talk about the Kadhi's court, and I want to very briefly talk on that on that aspect. So you'll tell me when to stop if he is ready, so you can. And I'll appreciate also. I want to give time to the students here to be able to throw questions so that we can answer some of some of those questions, and that will give us a level of your interests, your challenges, and so on, with respect to the topic that we are going to discuss today. So the Kadhi's Court in Kenya is the Kadhi's Court is a very old institution. It is it's a court of law. In our view, it's the historical perspective. We are going to talk about the legal perspective of it. What are the legal framework or what of the Kadhi's courts? What are the with specific the laws that are applicable in the Kadhi's court? What are the challenges therein, and the issues that we can discuss about the hierarchy and all those other details. So when we start about on the issue of the history, briefly, I know you are not interested too much about history, being scientists. We are very proud of you. I forgot to tell you that. We are very proud of you when we see young, amazing students, male and female, who have passion in, is it STEM or in the sciences? There are people here who are doing engineering, the different geospatial engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, and all the other types of engineering that you're doing. That is shows when we meet other students who find mathematics and physics very difficult, we are going to tell them that that's not difficult, and you're giving us a lot of hope that it's actually doable, and to encourage a lot of other people who are thinking the world of numbers is challenging, boring, and so on and so forth. So we are very proud of you, and we are praying for your success in these exams as well as in your future careers. Getting back to the Kadhi's Court, it's one of the oldest institutions in Kenya. The courts, as we know them in Kenya, they were established far later on than the Kadhi's Court. The Kadhi's Court, although not in the way they are today, in the essence of organization, but it has been there pre-independence, before independence, and even before the sultans came, even before there was a sultanate in the coast. You know, the coastal, what is called the coastal strip, was actually far larger area where the Sultan of Zanzibar had a lot of powers in that region. And all that had what he would call his area of operation throughout from the Somalia down to almost Mozambique and the islands of Zanzibar and Pemba. So all that region was under the influence of the sultanates. But Islam has been in existence in Kenya for quite a long time, and as long and as far back as there was Islam in Kenya, there were the Kadhi's courts. And when there is historical, empirical studies documented that actually show and prove the existence of the Muslim communities as well as the Kadhi's existence as early as 1400s or 1300s. There was this famous Morocco person who is interested in geography that went around the world, Ibn Battuta. He reported to have seen people in Somalia and in the areas around Lamu that there were some Muslim communities, and they had courts. The courts were existent in that area. That is in the 1300s. The sultans came here far later, In the 1400s also, there already the Kadhi of Lamu, there is a record that shows he was already, there was a court there because he had gone to Mecca for Hajj. And the old writer Al-Makrizi reports that he found the Hajj one of the Kadhis of Lamu. So that shows that it's a quite old institution. When the sultans came, then they made it kind of formal. There was the Kadhi and the Liwali. The Liwali was administrator, and the Kadhi was a judge. A Kadhi is literally a judge, specifically dealing with the Islamic law applications in this court. And even then, his area of jurisdiction was quite expansive, unlike today when his jurisdiction is a bit limited in terms of the areas of law that he can practice. So during the Sultan, it was very strong. And just before independence, there was that famous agreement between Shamte and Jomo Kenyatta in 1963 at the war in Britain when they were doing the agreement whether Mombasa and the coastal line can also be part of Kenya. There had to be an agreement through a letter. So that's actually an international treaty. There's no way you can, in the legal realm, just do away with an international treaty that is recognized internationally. That's why it's very difficult to do away with the Kadhi's court, but it was formed through an international treaty between Shamte and Jomo Kenyatta. So the agreement was that we are going to let you rule here because they had their own problems within the other regions in Muscat and so on with the Germans and the World War. So they had to let it go. But they made at least attempt to ensure that what they call the sovereigns would be able to continue to practice Islam, but also to protect their lands as well as their traditions and to be able to be governed on their personal status issues according to Islamic law. So that's why it found itself in the 1963 constitution that the Kadhi's court was there. And the way it was drafted, it in such a way that it was basically exactly as it was in that agreement. And that's why when you're interpreting the law in terms of our jurisdiction, we go back to that treaty where there is some gaps. So we go back to the international treaty to find out exactly what it was meant. So in issues of personal status, marriage, divorce, and succession of persons who profess the Muslim faith, the question will always be determined under Islamic law. So it came because of that kind of treaty, and now it is in the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya in 1963. And even during the promulgation of the new constitution and all that process, we are not going to go into a lot of detail about the actual process, but you'll find that there was that. I think most of you then were young, but are able to know that there were attempts or there were disagreements on whether or not the Kadhi's court can be part of the constitution. Eventually, it became part of the constitution, albeit with minor introductions that have some profound effects today in the way that we operate. So it still remains there. It was very difficult, despite the attempts to be able to make it, to weaken it. It was not the proposal was not to remove it at all completely, but to make it by way of legislation and to equate it with the other religions who had no interest in the beginning, and there's no historical background on why it was brought there, and because of that international treaty that you are alluding to. So that's how the Kadhi's court remain, and you can see how you great forefathers fought, and how even the very, very recent Muslims fought for the Kadhi's court to remain at Bomas, and now it is there. So for every Muslim youth, it is now your responsibility to be able to make sure that this thing, you're going to protect it so that it doesn't go away, it is never weakened, and you can be able to eventually practice the Islamic law. The importance of it, although we say the way it's drafted, they say the jurisdiction of the Kadhi's court shall be limited to the determination of the questions of Muslim law regarding personal status, marriage, divorce. It is limited to. That alludes to kind of simplicity, limitation, that it is not much. But when you regard personal status, it actually governs our life right from birth to death. Min al-Mahdi ila al-Lahdi. Between the two levels of darkness, as Professor Mujahid aptly puts it, there is light. So it's your entire life. Before you're married, how are you going to be married? What are the rights to marriage? In the event of divorce, all those laws are governed personal status and in these laws. Even after you're dead, how can you write a will? What are the limitations of a will? Or what you leave to your heirs, how is it going to be distributed? So before you're born, while you're living, and up to after your death, all those laws are a part of the corpus of laws that governs us. That is not limited, is it? So it's not as saying limited in the simple way they are putting it on the number of questions, but it's actually detailed and it affects our personal status. So we are not dealing with the other civil matters, the other criminal matters, as Kunyuk puts it in his very recent research. Those other affairs, the other questions are dealt with within the other laws, even the small claims court and the others. But regarding those questions, then they fall under the Islamic law, and they can be governed where both persons are Muslims. They can be governed in the Kadhi's court. The 2010 Constitution increased one thing, one area, one part of the provision of the Constitution in the area of jurisdiction, saying that, and also where all parties submit to the jurisdiction. That is an addition that was added in the new Constitution. It has some ramifications, and we are going to discuss a little about it. So that's very briefly about the history of the Kadhi's court, and our duty also to know this history. The importance of it is to cherish, to remember, and to appreciate the way it's come, the challenges it's gone through, and how people fought for it, so that we can continue to be able to preserve that history. What the legal framework? What are the laws that are practiced in the Kadhi's court? The Kadhi's court is established under the Constitution at Article 169 of the Constitution, and Article 170, sub-Article 5, is gives us the jurisdiction of the Kadhi's court. And the Kadhi, as we see it here, are defined as judicial officers. A judicial officer is any officer who presides over a court, including a judge of the Supreme Court, a judge of the High Court, or the judge of the Court of Appeal, a magistrate, and even the ones who sit in the other organization. They are adjudicators in the small court. There are also some other panels that adjudicate, make some quasi-judicial decisions. So Kadhis here are no different from magistrates, are not different from judges. In other jurisdictions, a judge, there's no difference between a judge and a magistrate, except from the extent of jurisdiction. And the Kadhi actually has what we can say is unlimited pecuniary jurisdiction. That is in the sense, while a magistrate can hear a case can be limited up to 1 million Kenya shillings. If a matter is more than 1 million, then you can't hear it. But a Kadhi has no limitation of pecuniary jurisdiction. He can hear a matter even 1 million shillings, even 10 million shillings, even 100 millions. And we actually do that. So especially in matters of estate, there's no limitation that you cannot hear this case because its value is 1 billion shillings. So we do those cases. When you hear cases in Nairobi, somebody's left a hotel, 2 apartments in Pangani or Kileleshwa, those are a lot of millions, and the Kadhi can be able to hear that. So in terms of pecuniary jurisdiction, probably our jurisdiction is almost equal to a judge, if I can say that. So it's quite a very serious job, and calls for very serious persons to sit to make determination in those cases. So that is in terms of jurisdiction and the laws that we are getting. So the Constitution, and then there is the Kadhi's Court Act, Cap 11, the laws of Kenya, that it was established quite a long time ago. It needs some updating. It's about 5-page act. It's gives us more details on where we are going to do, and we are already in the process of trying to implement and to improve that. The Laws of Succession Act, Section 2(3) and Section 48(2) provides that where it comes for matter of inheritance, where a person is Muslim, then that estate must be determined under Islamic law. So Laws of Succession Act does not apply to Muslims. If you're dead, or your father is dead, or your mother is dead, then the law applicable to him as a Muslim, according to the Laws of Succession Act, is the Islamic laws. And the case law in the High Court and even the Court of Appeal that has been held that the applicable law in terms of succession of deceased Muslims is the Kadhi's Court Act. Then we have the Matrimonial Properties Act at Section 3. It says that where the parties who married are Muslims and they have a dispute in the way at divorce they want to distribute their property, that property shall be distributed under Islamic law. Those are, if you count them, now we are in 3 laws or 4. Then there is the Marriage Act 2014. That is another kind of law that gives the way that people are going to be married. That act has repealed a lot of acts, has repealed the Mohammedan Marriage and Divorce Registration Act, Cap 155 laws of Kenya, together with all the other the Christian Marriage Act, the Customary Marriage Act, all those were repealed and put together into the Marriage Act, which has sections. One of those sections is the Muslim marriage. So that is there. So, and all these marriage, the civil marriage, the Christian marriage, the Muslim marriages, the customary marriages, all those have equal status before the law. None of these marriages is superior to any other. And they are all in this act, and that's another law that also gives us jurisdiction and gives us powers to determine disputes in that area. Then there is the Waqf Act. Any matter, any dispute relating to Waqf will at the first instance be heard at the Kadhi's court. If on appeal, then you can go to the High Court and so on and so forth. So that's the legal framework. It is not a kangaroo court. It is a very serious court with legal framework and very serious persons. We have 43 stations throughout Kenya, court stations with Kadhi's court. We have now 49 Kadhis who all of them are graduates of Islamic law, some of them with PhD, some of them with masters, some of them with several degrees. He has their BA in Islamic law, BA in law, BEd, and doing masters and all the other. This is a very serious court that sits on the issues for the Muslims, and we appreciate it. In the current applications, when the matter we are trying to recruit new Kadhis, we are so very many applications. The positions were only 15. We get more than 100 applications, and about 20% of them have PhDs. They just want to start there. People are leaving universities and they want to come to practice, to sit on the bench, to be able to determine these issues. So it's a very serious court in that context. Now we go in a little bit detail, maybe because of time, on the actual spaces of jurisdiction, the disputes in marriage, dispute in personal status, and divorce. There's a lot to be said about those disputes. What is personal status? What is marriage and inheritance, and so on and so forth? Very briefly, personal status is actually not properly defined in the common law, but under Islamic law, it is quite a well-defined sphere of law. When you go to the Black's Law Dictionary, you'll not find the term is personal status defined. You will find a term for personal and status differently, and then but in Islamic law, it is very well defined, and different acts throughout the world, in Egypt, in Morocco, in Syria, in Zanzibar here, in Ethiopia, and many other countries. So this is a general term that encompasses marriage, divorce, inheritance. In Arabic, you say min babi dhikri al-am al-khas ba'd al-am or am ba'd al-khas. So personal is a general term, and these others are just some of the terms that fall under this one. So marriage is not exhaustive. Marriage, divorce, and inheritance is not exhaustive. They are not the only issues that can be determined. Any matter that relates to personal status then actually falls in that. And that has been captured well in some of the acts, the chapters of the law. Any matter that is incidental to the matter of marriage and divorce, then that also becomes part of falling under the jurisdiction of the Kadhi's court. So marriage, divorce, we also deal with issues of burial, and it has happened before, and it was said that it's a personal matter that falls under jurisdiction. Somebody has became a Muslim, but he was born from an area where they are minority, and then his people want to bury him. As a Muslim, he has a right to be buried under Islamic law. Then that's where to be buried becomes a question for the law to determine, and it has been previously determined by the courts. I want to say also, before I go into later the details, that there are hierarchy in the Kadhi's court. There is the lowest, they're the same right now. Before they were different. Before you could start at Kadhi 1, Kadhi 2, you can only be promoted to Kadhi 1 and you probably retire there if you never become a chief Kadhi. So there are only 3 categories or stages that you could be promoted, but that was done away, and now you have the different hierarchies. You start at a resident Kadhi, and then you can become a senior resident Kadhi, and then the principal Kadhi, then senior principal Kadhi, then from there you can become the chief Kadhi if you qualify to hold. You can only be qualified to be a Kadhi if you are a Muslim and you hold a degree in Islamic law, as well as competent in computer applications, and be able to manage, to have all the requirements of Chapter 10 and all those other requirements. So those are as regarding the categories and the hierarchy in the Kadhi's court. We hear so many difficult questions in marriage and divorce. Regarding the woman, a lady who wants to get married, that right to be married needs the consent of not only the bride, but also the parent. But the consent of the bride has more power, because the matter is very personal to her. So when some of the fathers don't want to give the consent, the lady should not just run away and start an affair. The proper procedure is to come to court and to ask court that my father has refused, I want to be married, and the court will give that consent. The same case, our Muslim faith has given the women the right to, although we don't encourage it, even to end the marriage. It is a consent at marriage, at all the time, before marriage, when you want to get married, during all that time, that relationship has to be mutual. When the wife now, there are grounds that she wants to end the marriage, and the husband is not able to perform his parental marital duties and still refuses to release her, then the option, that's the way the court comes in. Through an application or petition for divorce, she can get her marriage. She can get the other requirements, the requisite rights inherent in that marriage before court. That includes a dowry if it was not paid, the right to custody of and maintenance of the child, right to mata, and the right to matrimonial property. She actually participated, if proven, to have contributed to the matrimonial property. So those are the rights of a woman that through an application she can be able to get in court. And then the rights in inheritance are quite many. For the wife and the daughters, they have specific shares under Quran chapter 4, 11, 12, and 176, which are prescribed there. When most of the parents, brothers, or they delay, they don't want to cooperate, then through succession petition, also she can be able to acquire and to get her rights through a petition in court. So those are basically very few of some of the intricate problems, legal problems, that gives rights to Muslims, which they can get from the courts. Time is ready there. Okay, so maybe I may stop there. If you have any questions regarding any or some of the issues probably have not stated, please feel free to answer after we are through with the person from the UK who is going to address us in a few moments. Thank you very much. Shukran, jazakumullah khair.